Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Packer Universe podcast. We're a Green Bay Packers fan podcast bringing you topical and relevant Packers news, along with our most humble, subjective opinions. This is episode 253. We're recording this on a Wednesday, December 27th, 2023. The Packers win on the road Christmas Eve to the Carolina Panthers. But all is not quiet or good on the Packers front going into Week 17 in Minneapolis against the Vikings on New Year's Eve day. I'm your host, Tay, and joining me on the comms tonight is our one and only
Ren. What up, Tay? Merry Christmas. Haven't spoken to you. Now, Happy New Year.
Indeed, Happy New Year and Merry Christmas. I hope your holidays went well. We had a Packer game on Christmas Eve day, and now we're going to have another Packer game on New Year's Eve day, I guess, or night. It's the night this time, but I don't know how you feel about that, but did the Packer game get in the way of any family festivities?
Not at all, Tay. I mean, I remember my brother.
Do you incorporate that?
Well, my brother popped over. Oh, shoot. Late third quarter. He's like, why are you getting worried about this? I'm like, Jay, you just, it's not over.
Wait and see.
It's not over till it's over. So it's looking good. It's a nice, relaxing Christmas Eve, but it is what it is. And inevitably, Tay, that same Packers defense, it doesn't matter if for many parts of the season, it was the rush defense. Now it's turned its head and now it's the passing defense. Sure enough, another quarterback looks like a potential top 10, maybe, not future Hall of Famer, but, could be a guy there for the next 10 years kind of starter against the Green Bay Packer defense. And are we shocked? Were we shocked? I would say I don't think so, Tay. I was really on this one. I know you mentioned you were too busy with holiday festivities to make the Green Bay Packers and the Packer Universe podcast a priority on Christmas Eve. I would say, no, this should be what we're doing. Screw the gifts, screw the people. Doesn't matter. Packer football. You got to carry that G, Tay, as other folks say out there in the universe. But, it would have been nice to talk about because this one had a lot of different moments and definitely reliving the should Joe Barry have been released after the end of the Buccaneers game. And I think the answer still to that question was, as we talked about, and I talked about it with you on the first take after the Bucs, and we talked about it into the following week, it wasn't a, hey, we're making crazy, just outlandish, fire Joe Barry chants anymore. It was just time to be done and move on and give the rest of the season a different taste. And hey, we got some tastes on Christmas Eve, and it was more of the same, Tay. It tasted like the same thing we've been eating over and over, and it's getting pretty bland. You can throw as much salt on that as you want. The taste does not change, put it that way. The Joe Barry D, Tay, it sucks. Doesn't matter what kind of spice you throw to it, with a few stunts to open the game against the Panthers, to back to more the same zone defense, making a below average quarterback look like a above average quarterback. So it was definitely questionable. Bryce Young's highest QBR of the season. Are we shocked? The Green Bay Packers did lead this game, Tay, by a total of 2 touchdowns to start the fourth quarter. In fact, it was with, I would say, 12 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. It was still 30-16. And this thing, Tay, had to get down to literally the final second to tick off. And thankfully, we're all out there in Packer Universe going, just let us have a nice Christmas. And they call it. And sure enough, they did not get the snap off in time. Otherwise, let's be honest, Tay, that thing was 100% going to overtime. And I don't know if we would have liked the result in overtime, the way that the tide had swung massively in the favor of, Tay, the worst team in football.
Well, I think we all got a present there, an early present that evening or that late afternoon when the clock expired. We all saw the replay, and if I had a bet, I would bet that they got it off. But Packer Universe isn't gonna call that one back and give it to them. I think we lucked out a little bit there, but yeah, man, dude, Ren, you are right. This Packers D got an F for the day. These were leftovers you didn't want from the Tampa Bay game. This is Exhibit B for the continued declaration of fire Joe Barry. We talked about it after the Tampa Bay game. We gave evidence for. There's evidence out there for. And then when you come in and you're up 30-16, you think, oh, we got a soft pad here on the lead here, no problem. And then to watch it all just melt away within minutes is it was just heartbreaking. And it's just like, okay, here we go. The offense looked great. Like, yes, they have their problems. They're not the best in the league, but they're doing their job. They're out there. And the special teams and defense is failing this team hardcore right now. And it's so frustrating because we all see it. We all know. And like we said in past episodes, the last couple, there's no reason to not try this, these last 3 games now, but now it'll be 2 without Joe Barry. Just do it. So then my point is, when we all see it, we all know it, and there's no reason not to really, then you have to start looking up the chain. Is this an MLF problem? Is this Matt's problem? Like, do we shift our blame and all of our anger away from Joe and up the chain to MLF? Is he doing his job? And we'll talk about something else that's happened just today about that involves Matt LaFleur. But now it's kind of like, do we have, we shouldn't be getting agitated at this when we got a win, but we are. This one felt like a loss again. There was a couple of those that we referenced earlier in the season that we got W's, but they didn't feel right. This one, again, didn't feel right because of the way Carolina was able to come back against our defense. And that is clearly the problem. So, to me, it felt like a win. I mean, sorry, it felt like a loss, but we got the W, and I don't know, like, it wasn't a feel-good win at all, and that just didn't sit right. It's still not sitting right, and I don't know what to do. I'd like to walk away from games like this going, yeah, okay, we got the W, it's cool. Like, our team's still working through some things, but when you see blatant things happening on the defense that just are a detriment to this Packers team, and that it's going to happen again, it's almost like a broken record. That's what's frustrating. So this is Exhibit B, Ren, for complete and utter, like, calling for something to happen and to change, because as a lot of people pointed out, they tried to change. It seemed like Joe Barry tried to change some of the things on defense that he did in this game, but it wasn't working. So I don't know. Do you solely put this on Joe himself, or do you think there are personnel problems, or people aren't just executing? Do you think there are communication problems still run with this whole defensive thing?
I mean, clearly there's communication, and I would say buy-in problems with the defense today.
Ooh, there we go. Yeah.
It's clearly there. I mean, the communication, we hear that week to week, and really at this point, what it means is buy-in. This defense has not played for Joe Barry in a number of weeks. And again, you mentioned there's stuff today we're going to talk about, and that's obviously the curious case of Jaire Alexander, with a big gap to start that one. And now today led to some, serious, issues on the football team. And I think rightfully so, but there's just not been buy-in, and there are people saying different things. And do you lose a team? And does the head coach lose a team because, you're not pulling the right strings at times? And listen, Sunday, had the offense played better in the fourth quarter today, they certainly, eliminate any of these questions. Had they go down and at least put up one more touchdown, and it really never gets to that point. And they couldn't do that. But again, that's on the offense, but also on Matt LaFleur too. We're talking about Matt LaFleur, and Aaron Jones on that turf, which turf in an open air stadium in Carolina. Why? I'm not sure, but I will say Aaron Jones looked pretty slick on it in the first half of the football game. I mean, he was just killing it. Tay. He looked about as fast and ready to go as I've seen him in a long time. It was pretty impressive. First 100-yard performance by the Packers on the ground all year,
or through the air, that matter too.
Right, and he just he adds that extra element to the offense. But yeah, down the stretch again, Aaron Jones kind of disappears, which is interesting. Going back to the defense, you have it late where the Packers don't even have their two best pass rushers on the field, and they don't have anybody lined up on a fourth down call in the regular A gap. How that happens, I'm sure you saw that live, and I think we had the C team or the D team calling that game on the TV, and they pointed it out. Like you can't play defense that way and not have everybody in the middle when you know where they're going with it. It was crazy. It was crazy alignment. This just tells you how bad this thing's gotten. That they in these situations they have the call is so poor. They can't play essentially a goal line stand properly. It's bad. Okay, the defense is real bad. And listen, the Packers have a lot in front of them, but it certainly leaves Packer fans in the Packer universe with a lot of questions, wondering, how they get this next W based on what they've seen transpire over the last few weeks.
Yeah, and I think most Packer fans out there, would say, okay, if they got to this point, and yeah, okay, they're still in the playoff hunt. Great, let's go win some games here. But this whole defense of breakdown is really rubbing everyone the wrong way, because it's something that you can see that can be changed, or you think should be changed, not necessarily easily, but just with some sort of different strategy or admittance by Matt LaFleur, some command by him that you can take as evidence that he's doing something about it, but there's none of that. So yeah, if the Packers go to the playoffs and they lose, just from that statement alone, people wouldn't be super upset about this. But when in this scenario now, it's like, you have to win the last two games. You have to, and missing some of these games through the season that you could have gotten because of these weird cases and weird, showings by the defense. It just makes it a little hard to swallow here. But in a vacuum, if you looked at this and said, okay, they have a chance, you're rooting for it. But just, again, it just doesn't feel right now. And the offense, I think, does. You mentioned Aaron Jones. He looked great. He disappears. So towards the end of the game, you don't know what's happening with that. I think was it the Buccaneers that maybe he was rumored injured, or they told us that he was injured or nursing some sort of injury at the end of that game where you didn't see him again. And now you got Taylor out there trying to get the necessary yards to convert and all that. So I don't know. Like, the offense looked fine. Jordan Love is fine. The young receivers are fine. Like, that's all happening. Like, and we'll go through those growing pains. No questions asked, because that's just what you do with the youngest team in the NFL. With this new era changeover here with Jordan Love and crew, fine. But man, it just gets me that this defense is what was supposed to carry this offense and this team on their back to I don't know, to greatness, and it's not happening. I don't know what Matt LaFleur is waiting for. There's probably like this small percentage of me that thinks like, okay, because he's not firing Joe Barry, then is it a player problem? And if it is that why you're not pulling the trigger on a coaching change? And who are these players? And that's kind of like where maybe some of this Jaire stuff comes into play, this Devondre Campbell stuff comes into play. I'm not pointing fingers at the players, but I'm just saying maybe there's some sort of butting of heads here, disconnect with the coaching, and like you said, buying in here with this defense, because something isn't right. It doesn't feel right. And now we're going into a game that we absolutely need to win to even go or have a chance at making the playoffs. And so that's why it's frustrating.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, this game they're going into, if they win it, their playoff percentage goes up to 62%. And then if they win the final one, it goes up into the 90s. But if they lose it, goes down to about 1%. So, I mean, it is literally, it's playoff time.
Yeah.
I mean, the exciting thing as a Packer fan is we have playoff football. It's Sunday night, and it's going to be, intense. We all will have the day off on Monday, so we're all going to be dialed in, really getting into this thing Sunday night because it's our season. So that part is exciting and terrifying at the same time. But we have a defense problem against a team that, frankly, whipped our ass the last time they're at Lambeau. Different quarterback will be under center. We know that Kirk did blow out the ACL in not the ACL, but his Achilles when he was playing the Packers late in the fourth quarter, first go round. But yeah, now we have, you mentioned that, the buy-in piece that we were talking about earlier, is this whole thing, they've lost the defense so much that now we have this curious case of Jaire being, just Jaire, and never put him on IR. And then we have this interesting aspect going to this game where he did that thing. He ran out as a unofficial captain, said the wrong things. Thankfully, not the coaches, but referees on the field already knew Matt's call prior to the game. He's smart enough to talk to them prior to that. But that could have been a really, really big mess up. And if you saw his post-game interview, he's like, no, my guys have my back. I'm from Charlotte. I ran out there. It was all good. Nobody said anything to me. Pretty quizzical stuff. And it doesn't give you, as a Packer fan, a lot of hope and faith, because it does seem like this locker room is a little bit divided. And you worry if they're starting, not only to question Joe, but, potentially now Matt. And then it has to come down from Brian Gutekunst, of all people, that we can't put up with that. And nor should they, Tay. I mean, what Jaire did was unacceptable. You can't let players dictate and do what the hell they want. That's unacceptable. I don't care if he means a lot out there on Sunday. I'm sure you were hoping he'd be lined up against Jay Jets one-on-one playing man all day on him. But what do you feel about this Jaire stuff, Tay? Because it's a problem, and he's been a problem. And honestly, ever since the shoulder injury, Jaire really hasn't been the same player. He's been one of the lowest graded players by people like Andy Herman, for the last 18 months when not healthy. It's been a long time. So how are you feeling about Jaire?
I don't know what to think. It's not good things right now. It's all question marks and totally wondering what is happening. But just to recap, the captains were decided they go out for the coin toss. But Jaire inserted himself on his own and went out there himself to join the party. And then he calls tails when it was flipped. And then he says the defense wants the ball. But in fact, Matt wants us to defer, which means, the defense gets the ball, but we want the ball in the second half. So there's like wordage and stuff that I guess is important. Jaire basically inserts himself and he says he goes rogue, right? So like, I don't know how that happens. You see Jaire run out there. Can't you go get him? Can't you send someone out to just retrieve him? Like, I don't know how that happens, but that's like your first, like, okay, wait, what? Why would you do that? If you thought it was cool, if you thought you were allowed out there, I would think you would check with your head coach. So the decision by himself to go out there begs a lot of questions. So he does that, and he doesn't have a great game. He had that one pass deflection, and he basically got lucky. I think he wasn't even turning around to look at the ball. Maybe he was looking at the defender's eyes and his body language, but he basically just throws up his hands and the ball, goes incomplete, luckily. But then he kind of gets up and like does his, I did that. And it's like, oh God, dude, go back to the huddle, man. You got lucky on that one. But yeah, he hasn't played that well this year. I think he's afraid to tackle now with that shoulder injury. He's not going to put his put his body out there, especially now with a few games left here in the season. I just don't see that happening. So now I think you have a player problem with him not giving it all, buying into this stuff either. But yeah, I think, I don't know what it was, but he was making not necessarily bad comments, but locker room comments earlier. So now you have that, and you have Devondre Campbell, and you just wonder, right? Yeah, are they really in on Joe Barry, and does it go even higher up than that? And do they not even like Matt LaFleur and how he's handling the team? So the Packers came down on him today. Matt and Brian Gutekunst got together and said, "You're suspended this week. You can't play in the Vikings game." So now that that's happened, he can't play. So we're down again a cornerback for this game, which stinks, right? Like, we needed him, especially with JJ back, Justin Jefferson back. This is important. And now you're not available because of stuff you did kind of off the field. That just doesn't sit right. It's not going to sit right with anybody. So the Packers, I think, were right in that decision. And during Matt's conference today, it got awkward. The media went right after him and kept talking, kept asking and pushing about this Jaire issue. And Matt was kind of deflecting. He gave his little piece, but then they kept asking, and I guess I'll paraphrase here. He just basically said, like, we had a good talk with Jaire. He'll be better for this. We will all be better for this. We had to do this, but I'm not talking about it anymore. And I think people wanted to know, was it just this coin toss thing? And he alluded to that it wasn't. He said there were a lot of different things that came into this suspension. So it wasn't just the coin toss. Now that is juicy information, because now you know that it's not just this one incident, that it's other stuff. So I guess we don't even have to know what that other stuff is without saying, holy crap, like, this is serious, right? So what else could be happening? If it's Jaire, it could be someone else. It could be other people in that locker room. And so now you're wondering what the hell is going on. And I guess the last thing I'll say before I throw it back to you, Ren, is that Jaire is, I would say, he's one of the more veteran people on the roster now. Like, he's been there a while. So I guess you could classify him as the old guard. He's not one of the brand new guys on this team. So maybe he's had time to develop his ways, his sentiments, the way he views this team, not like those other super younger players that are on the team right now. So maybe he's part of that, maybe that David Bakhtiari group, that Aaron Rodgers group, where things, when they're not going his way, he decides to, like, make a scene or say things. I thought this guy was all in, but now I am not so sure. Man, I don't know what to think, Ren. I really don't. But all this is evidence that something is happening. They're not either buying in or they don't respect their coaches. So I'll pass it to you. What are you really thinking about this Jaire situation?
I don't know. Jaire seems to talk a lot. He always has. He's always been a very flamboyant type of player. But I don't think the play is backed up for a long time. I mean, the Packers backed up the Brinks truck for him when the play was backed up, and ever since then, there's been a lot of injuries, and the play hasn't mirrored itself. I don't think headaches are worth it, and I think when you have a really young football team, voices like that in the locker room can be a big problem real fast, because you have a lot of young guys who are very impressionable. I'm glad they at least did this today to say, hey, we had a big game on Sunday, and Jaire's a good player, but we can't put up with that. This is what it means to play as a team. If you're going to be a distraction, you're not going to be part of the team. We're collected, we're a unit, and we need guys who are not going to distract us from the ultimate goal, which is to win football games. It's a big concern, Tay. I don't think his play is warranted any of the respect he thinks he deserves. because nobody's bigger than team, number one. We've seen that with future Hall of Fame quarterbacks that are no longer with the football team. Let's put it that way. Who went into darkness retreats. So Jaire's really got to mind his P's and Q's given all those things. But I'll actually push it back to you one more before we get into the Minnesota Vikings day. And that is, do you see a place for Jaire on this football team in 2024? Or do you say, hey, maybe this is the best time in the offseason if you can get something for it to part ways?
Huh.
We're going to have a lot of, it seems like, Tay, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a lot of time to talk about it.
It's true. So I guess I'll set up all those conversations by saying, yeah, we have a lot of draft capital in the first, 3 rounds. So we after trading Rasul, the secondary room kind of was depleted, we thought, at that point. And then if you remove Jaire, then that's even more down. I think the Packers could reload or get a veteran. So they could, if they deliberately attempted to restock the secondary in the offseason. So that could be done. So yeah, there is a path here that doesn't have to have Jaire on the roster. Do you trade him away? If you want to get rid of him, sure. Yes, absolutely. Try to do that. But we aren't privy to any of the conversations that they're having. We don't know exactly what's happening with Jaire. We can only see by the evidence given to us, by analyzing body language, interviews, actions, right? So the Packers took action today against Jaire, in-house action. So that speaks volumes. Like, when is the last time that's happened? I can't remember. So it is serious in that regard. So yeah, I do see, I can see this going south pretty quick. I guess I would tend to think that would be the way it will go. I think it probably needs to. There's a lot that has to happen to make this right again. I think, and then for him to be in a position next year where he's all good. And the Packers are all good. The coaching staff's all good. And who knows where the defensive coordinator position will be, and if Jaire will like this person better and buy into the next defensive coordinator. You would hope that he would. So a lot of this offseason stuff, I think, will impact this scenario that we're asking ourselves about right now. If the Packers and even Brian Gutekunst is willing to suspend a player internally for doing something, that speaks something. And I guess it's not the same. This is apples and oranges. But why isn't Brian and maybe even Mark the meddler interfering or getting this defensive coordinator thing out of the way now too? I had to ask that and bring that up. It's not the same, but it's like if the Packers seem to be willing and able to, come down on their own players and give, some action there. So why can't they do it with the coaching stuff? I don't understand it. So clearly we don't have all the answers and all the information here, but from our viewpoint, I think we all in the universe kind of are on the same page here. But let me bounce that back to you. Jaire, do you think he's on the team next year? Do you see a path where we can work this out, or is this a foregone conclusion?
I'd lead more to the latter today, that it's probably more of a foregone conclusion. I think that potentially with other teams that are on the NFL, obviously hearing this news today, they may know that the Packers potentially, at least the phone will light up and say, hey, you guys seem to have some issues with Jaire. Are you open for business? So I think it sends that message too that, hey, we're not going to pick up the phone, but people know now we might have this player that is, not maybe not right for us. And if the right team comes calling, I think they'd probably move him for some high draft capital.
So let's play this out a little bit. Let's have some fun. What do you think, draft capital wise? What do you think Jaire's worth? I think this is his 6th year. I think is he still not the highest paid cornerback in the league right now?
To my knowledge, he is today.
So yeah, like what do you think he's worth?
I think they could still potentially, with the right team, not a 1st round pick, but squeeze a 2nd round pick out of Jaire Alexander. Being the upside is so great, and a team in a position as a contender might say that's a really weak spot for us. Okay, we can get him in here. He's a new, change of scenery. He's still a young guy with a lot to prove. Still has some really good years in front of him. I think they could squeeze that out of there. And let me throw this last piece out there with regards to Jaire. And some of the guys on defense. I mean, we saw Jerry Gray kind of say, "Hey, this is not my place anymore. I'm out. I'm not going to say." Remember his kind of parting words were, "I don't really have anything to say about Joe Barry and his defense. It has nothing to do with me." And a few weeks later, he's gone per his own volition. And it very much seemed like we talked about last year. Hey, why don't give Jerry a chance at this defense down the stretch and see how things go. And I was a fan. That was kind of my guy. I said, give it to this guy, see what he can do. And of course it doesn't happen. And then for whatever reason, Matt LaFleur gives him his vote of confidence, that being Joe Barry in the offseason. He sticks around another year. And honestly, he shouldn't have done that. And Jerry goes out to Atlanta. He becomes an assistant head coach and on, assistant head coach in defense. So he's given a pretty nice title out there, and we know the players liked him. So I think ever since then, maybe this crack started to get a lot bigger, and it was definitely related to Jerry Gray. We know he was the leader of that cornerback room, and I don't think players were feeling too good about it. Okay, I really don't.
Yeah,
I think they said, Matt, that's bullshit. We love this guy, and you stuck with Joe, and it's slowly that crack has only got bigger, and I think that was kind of the lead piece of where we find ourselves today, a little less than a year later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there seems to be some weird hierarchy thing with the coaching staff right now, some pecking order that we don't understand, some loyalty thing somewhere that we just can't grasp or understand. It's just strange. It seems weird. I don't know who's pulling the strings. Is it Brian? Is it Matt? And he just doesn't seem like that type of guy. I just think Matt isn't reacting. I think it's his job to react, but he's just not doing it for some reason. I don't understand it at all. But Jaire is one of those guys that's in the middle, I think, of this roster. When you look at a lot of the new players, they want to play and they want to prove themselves. They want to show the NFL, that they can play and that they're worth what, up and coming, to get a contract, to stay on a team, all that sort of stuff, right? Prove yourself when you're young. Guys like, Preston Smith, they're on their way out. Like, these guys may get a contract somewhere else, but for now, Preston's doing pretty well for us. But those guys are on the end, the back end of their careers, so they're probably not going to shake things up. They're just going to, play and try to do their job well, and maybe they get another contract for this team. But Jaire, to me,
and
is
they're
right
more,
in the middle.
and maybe Tay, they're more professional. Maybe Preston Smith is a professional football player who knows his role, and he knows when not to act, like a prima donna. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that very well could be. So I think maybe Jaire's right in the middle there, and he's got a lot of time left in the league, so maybe he doesn't have to either settle, I guess is maybe the right or wrong word for that. But I guess kind of what I'm talking about or what I'm throwing out here. I'm just trying to figure this out or rationalize it somehow, but it is very, very strange. So regardless, we're down another CB here coming into this week's game, which is a must-win game because, like we talked about, the Packers need to win both of these last two games to even have a chance to get in the playoffs. But they also do need some help. If the Packers win out, they need either the Rams or the Seahawks to lose at least one of their games, which is possible because now you have two teams. I guess you need to lose once, so that's great. But we have to take care of business ourselves, and I don't know. This what do you think of this Vikings team now? It seems like years later after that first 24-10 loss that we had. But what are you feeling about these Vikings, Ren? Do you have at least your opening arguments for this matchup?
I mean, it's huge, Tay. I mean, as Packer fans, we know the Packers are certainly a much more competent, even when they don't have the full complement, a much more competent offense today than they were then. Jordan Love has continued to develop. He can make a lot of the throws. He seemed to stay cool under pressure. He has gotten much better with protecting the football over that time. But this is a win or you're done game today. I mean, literally it is. We talked about it a little earlier, which is fun. It really is. But we've all seen how this passing defense has gone the last few weeks, and I would say it leaves most of the universe with a lot of, I don't see how they do it. I don't see how they can beat Minnesota in Minnesota. Really tough, loud place to play. It's going to take a excellent offensive performance from Jordan and the guys. We know they're banged up there. Thankfully, we're going to talk a little bit about the injury report that, Jaden Reed's going to likely make his way back. Unfortunately, Dontavian Wicks and Christian Watson probably will not be on the field. But, hey, great games recently, with Bo Melton getting out there. Malik Heath's been a guy. Romeo had a great game on Sunday. Tucker's been, as we know, week to week, a revelation. It doesn't sound like Musgrave's quite there yet, although, limited practicing, but not really with the team. So I think, and finally a healthier Jones, I think the offense, if they play to their capabilities, can certainly, keep themselves in this one. But it's really the defense, Tay, that, again, this passing defense with the Minnesota offense, I don't know if anybody out there, you, myself, or anybody included amongst the, millions of Packer fans feel like they can win this based on what we've seen over the last couple weeks. You can look at the most recent piece of evidence, and that's Bryce Young lighting them up. We know that the Vikings, this week, they're like, well, it could be Nick Mullins, it could be Dobbs, it could be their rookie quarterback who finished the game against the Packers when Kirk left in the final minutes in Green Bay. That would be, who is that guy? To help me out, the backup quarterback, the rookie. I can't remember his name. Jaron Hall replaced Cousins.
Yeah, Jaron Hall. Yep. And
so they're kind of just trying to be shifty, Minnesota Vikings about it. Like, we don't know who we're going to start. Prepare for all of them. I don't think you really have to worry a whole lot about who the quarterback is, so to speak. But, when you're talking about the Green Bay Packers pass defense, maybe you do, because it doesn't seem like anybody can stop anybody. Unfortunately for them, they lost TJ Hawkinson.
Hawkinson's out.
Hawkinson, as the Tay would say, he added to the list of ACLs in the 2023 season, unfortunately. So could be a long time till you see him. But we know Justin Jefferson's out there, Tay. 6 catches, 141 yards against Detroit on Sunday. What do you think that could be for Green Bay? I mean, if you put up
Double
6 for one, you just took the words out of my mouth. It's going to be 12 for 282. I mean, that's the reality, Tay, man. And he did. He set an NFL record for the most receiving yards by a player in their first 4 seasons with that performance on Sunday. Beating Michael Thomas by a few hundred yards. So it's scary. And let's go back and relive some of that Packer game against the Vikings in Green Bay. Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne, they had 15 for 181 against the Packers today. Mm-hmm. So, they got to stop Jefferson. They got Addison's, he's on the questionable list, whether or not he's going to play on Sunday. But you still got Osborne out there. The Vikings have the number one pass blocking. Again, we're just talking about pass catchers. Number one pass blocking offensive line in the NFL, and the ninth best run blocking offensive line. So they get it done. On the flip side, their DT 16th best against the run and 32nd in rushing the passer. So sounds like, as Rasheed Walker's really kind of coming in his own at left tackle, and listen, they've done well keeping Jordan off the turf the last couple weeks. He's going to have time, but they're going to have to put up one hell of a performance against this team. Again, doesn't matter if it's Nick Mullins, doesn't matter if it's Jaron Hall, doesn't matter if it's Dobbs. They're just they're going to be tough there. I mean, US Bank Stadium, Tay, it is loud. That is not a fun place to play. But the Vikings, they've kind of been on a roller coaster, 7-8. Started 0-3, won 6 of the next 7. Then now they've lost 4 of the last 5. They have kind of given way from Alexander Madison to Ty Chandler, who's starting to run the football well. He had his first 100-yard game a couple of weeks ago against Cincinnati. So it's, I don't know, man. It's, you just look at everything, you look at the way things are played, and I say it really takes a damn good, consistent offensive game of the Packers in 4 quarters. You can't play 3 like you decided to do against the Panthers, the worst team in the NFL. You got to have 4 quarters of consistent offensive football. Number one, to keep the defense off the field, important, and to give yourself enough time to get through the game and hopefully get a close win to give yourself, some life going into week 18.
Yeah. Yep. You are right. I mean, the Packers, I think, had 3 drives in the fourth quarter, excuse me, of that Panther game. 2 ended in punts, and then the last one was that field goal. But, without Hawkinson there, I mean, they do have the 3rd best passing yards per game in the league. Without Hawkinson, I think that that number is could be a little off, a little lower now. But JJ's back, and I don't know what to think about this quarterback situation. Is it because he's been pass protected so well? But then again, we have 2, so it kind of has the trappings for a shootout with our bad pass defense and potentially theirs. And that we have to capitalize on that. There's only one thing to do here is to shut down Justin Jefferson and get to the quarterback to disrupt him. Ty Chandler, that's an issue, and anybody can really run on us. So I don't know what to do about that. You could try to shut that down. Last week wasn't great on short yardage situations for our run defense. It looked terrible. So I guess if you had to pick something, I guess you pick the passing defense, but this could be a shootout if the offense is again doing their job like they have done in the last several games. They have been doing well, and they can obviously put up 30 points, and they have been putting up 20. So I think it's possible. I think I'm not hopeful, though. I do have my reservations about how this team will come out. If they make any mistakes or start adding them up, they're done. They're donezo. If they lose a fumble or 2 or have an interception, I think that's going to be too much for this Packers team to overcome. So they have to be flawless, and the offense has to play like they did last week, except for the fourth quarter, of course, but you know what I mean. And the defense just has to do something. Stop one of their aspects on the Vikings defense, whatever that is, whatever we want to choose. But I think we're both at 7-8. They have the advantage over us. Obviously, they're the ones just outside of that playoff wild card position. We're not, so we need a lot of help to get there. They have a ton to play for, obviously, because of that, and it's a must-win game for them too. So this is playoff football. So hopefully the Packers come ready to play, ready to fight for this game. Sometimes we don't see that from the Packers. We just see them kind of limp out there and either pretend to try to win the game or they just don't care. So I don't know. Matt's really got to do something to rally this team's energy and vibe, or they're going to be one and done here. So I think the score is going to be, let's see. I think we're going to lose 30-27.
And the 2023 season comes in Tay's realm of things.
Yep.
Do you know the line, Tay?
No, but I would imagine it's probably like 5.5 or something. Vikings.
It's only 2, Tay.
Okay.
So they're not even getting the home 3. So they're saying that this is going to be pretty tight. And I think based on the quarterback play. I didn't get into the whole thing, but Mullins, when he's been starting, he's thrown 6 INTs over his last 2 starts today. So that's probably why they're not like, hey, Mullins is the guy for sure.
Yeah.
Turned the ball over 4 times, 4 sacks. They were penalized 8 times against the Lions. They weren't good in that loss, and Detroit still squeaked it out somehow late. They do have a pretty good safety in Josh Metellus. He's kind of all over the field with them. 25 pressures, 38 stops on the season. He gets all over the field, basically line up anywhere in different defensive formations. And he did have a pick of Jordan in their last meeting, but I'm gonna be the positive guy, Tay. Why not? Why not? Let's be positive. Let's be positive. I'm gonna go Packers 27, Vikings 24 in a nail biter. And really, again, I think, Tay, this comes down to, unfortunately, defense has been so bad. The offense is going to be the defense. They're just going to have to sustain some nice drives. Use Aaron Jones, not just for a couple quarters, all game long. Stay on the field, just keeping your defense fresh and keep them off the field as much as possible, because Justin Jefferson is going to get his amongst other pass catchers. We know it's going to happen. But I think the Packers will do just enough to squeak this one out and give themselves something to play for into the new year in 2024.
I hope you're right. Just a little news out there. Mason Crosby was signed by the Giants off their practice squad to come in.
You had to do this, didn't you? You really had to do a Crosby segment. Oh, goodness.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, universe.
He made a 52-yard field goal just days after signing in that game against Philly. But the reason I bring it up really is because to highlight Anders Carlson. He misses an extra point again in this game against the Panthers, and it does come back to bite us. Every time he's missed an extra point, it has been integral.
Hey, did you see the operation on that one? Wasn't great. Not all his fault. Sorry.
Yeah, but
dude, he banged those field goals, Tate. Banged them. He's not super old either, like your old graybeard Crosby. Hey, all the love to Mason, but he can go eat at Applebee's, all right?
Yeah, do you think he would have missed that one? Do you think so? Even with that setup? You
possibly,
never know.
Yeah. Possibly.
But I don't know. I think the Packers, I don't know what to think anymore. You really have a wild card with that defense and what's going to happen there. And we just, you hope that they come to play, because that's what they're going to need. They go into that place to play. Maybe if the Vikings were coming here on Sunday night, it'd be different. But yeah, it's not. We get to go there. Yay. So yeah, next year we will see either a team with hope or a team without.
Wow, you're burying
Profound.
2023 season, Tay. Disappointed. I'm gonna say it's not positive.
Hey, when in the beginning of the year we do schedule predictions.
Yes, we do.
It's I have it posted on our website. You have them winning or having a winning record at 9-8, and they're already at 8 losses. So in theory, Ren, they would win the next 2 games for you to get a correct prediction. I have them at 8-9, which means we get a loss probably this week and then a win against the Bears to make them 8-9. So I guess that's kind of how it would play out.
You're more concerned about your week 1 predictions than Packer football carrying itself into the 2024 season.
I'm just bringing it up because it's fun.
All right.
I'm a little worried. Yeah, I'm not.
Well, you even had to bring up Mason Crosby, so I don't know where your head is at this point. So
number 21 Giants jersey. It's in the mail.
I'm sure it is actually.
All right, Ryan.
What kind of number is that for a kicker, Jay? What kind of number?
It's probably the one that I think Tyrod's got number 2. Tyrod's who will be the quarterback now. He got the nod for the start this week, which means that Danny DeVito, what is his name? Johnny DeVito, whatever it was
his name is Tommy Tay. Tommy DeVito.
Tommy DeVito got demoted. He got benched. But that was 2 weeks ago when he got offensive player of the week against the Packers. So that just again tells you how bad this Packers defense is. So
well, we got way off the rails here. I apologize, universe, but you got anything more on these Minnesota Vikings, US Bank Stadium, the Green Bay Packer defense, Jaire Alexander in the cloud glasses? Tay, you got anything?
No, I'm behind my Packers though. I want them to win. I think they can win, and they got to play their hearts out, man. They got to play their hearts out. They have to want this one. I want to see it. I want to see it in the way they play, that they want this one for the win. But other than that, no, I don't have anything else. I'd like to say thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for subscribing. Tell a friend. Tell a friend in the new year. And I hope everyone had a great holiday and have a great and safe New Year's. And go Pack, go.
On that note, Tay, until episode 254, Happy New Year on the Pup List.
Panthers.